Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning,
Morning.
Justin. Good morning, Marianne. Thanks for
Morning.
joining us to come together today. Do this probably kind of a one that may not seem interesting on the surface, but I think once we kind of dive into it, there's a lot of meat on the bones on this one about.
Mhm.
So today we're going to talk about cyber insurance for small business, cyber liability insurance, I should say. And so before we dive in first, I just want to say thanks to everyone for watching, commenting, subscribing. It's really important. If you have any questions, please submit them here. We love answering questions, and I think this is going to be a really good one. So I'm going to hand over the reins to Marianne to keep us on track. She does a great job of that. And so Marianne, take it away.
Great. Yeah, I think one of the reasons that we came up with this topic is that we just really want to demystify it. We know that probably every business owner or even any VIP is going to have heard this bandied around. Do I need cybersecurity insurance? What does it cover? What do I need to do to get it? So we're going to start by just defining what it is. A little bit back to where it started, because obviously computers have been around a long time, but cybersecurity insurance is very different now. So I don't know if George, you want to take over the
Sure.
beginning of it, and
Yeah.
and then we'll talk about exactly what it is today.
Yeah, exactly. So it started out. There's the idea of the insurance started in the 80s, but it really kind of took hold in the early 2000s, around 2000, from Lloyd's of London. Famously insure everything and anything. So they developed a product around cyber liability insurance. And originally, it was for companies that would send out viruses or worms. The kind of famous one back in those days was called Code Red. It was a big deal. Got into your network, crawled across SMB shares, and locked out network segments. It was really bad, totally disruptive. I remember place I worked, we had a really bad infestation of it. Like whole network segments would fail. So the idea is that if you were traced back that you were the person who sent it, you could be held some liability for not protecting your clients or your people receiving the email. But it really has evolved because just the threat landscape went from this kind of like almost innocuous kind of like strip kitty kind of hacker thing to truly becoming a serious threat to business existence. And I think it's really important to say this is really part of your CII triad. This is part of that confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And this falls squarely into your availability section, because what this does is it's a compensating control. That's what happens when you have a problem and how you recover from it. So it's this a critical piece of your kind of plan, your arsenal of dealing with risk and hammering and getting it in position so that you can resume operations as always, business continuity. So
I think it's interesting too, though, the way that, like you said, it evolved from in the beginning, early days of internet and real cyber stuff. It really was just viruses and worms and things that didn't do anything other than whatever they did. And now it's become this, it's a business, it's organized crime essentially. And that the insurance has evolved to respond to that as well, and not
right.
just to protect you against, you being liable for damaging somebody else's equipment or hurting somebody else accidentally, but also the losses that you would suffer for things like data destruction or really it's extortion. It's we've locked up all of your resources. You have to pay money in order to get it back, and to have some protection against that.
Right, and also the much more damaging to not more damaging. The other piece of it is denial of service attacks, which are crippling, especially if you're an e-commerce company or you connect with your customers online. Some of the other pieces that it really can include is some security audit and post-incident PR investigation, criminal reward, and some compensation and or like things that can help say it's an internal breach and your employees need, let's say, credit protection because their social security numbers were released.
Yes. Yeah.
And so they can pay for part of that. Once again, it's not like an end all be all like most insurances. It's very specific, and there's a lot of underwriting and there's a lot of caveats. So you really
want a lot of
Yeah.
options. I mean, like you
Correct.
said, like it started with just, we'll pay for some of the liability that you have if you're accidentally sending out viruses. But now, I mean, you have those options. Like you said, there's security audits. Do you need post-incident PR? Do you need money for that? Do you need
Right.
all that stuff? So it depends. But it is really interesting how much it can cover now, because there
Right.
is so much that can happen.
Right, and there's so many things you need, and it's really important to differentiate your general business liability does not cover much of these costs or incidents. So it's pretty important. So with that, I think I don't know. I think it's pretty good. Why?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well,
Oh no, what it is.
that's more like what it is.
Yeah.
Basically, people know what insurance is and now we can define what it covers. But I think a lot of people, I mean, we talk mostly to small to medium businesses. They're going to say, do I need this? And if you've watched a couple of our live streams in the past, you will have heard us say before that no business is immune. And this is something that, because there's a direct cost to it, that you do need to think about and analyze. And again, the answer is still going to be yes. But let's talk a little bit about that. Let's start with some statistics we've got.
Right.
The average cost of a malware attack on a company is 2.6 million, and now that is a crazy, insane number.
Right.
So yeah, these things can end a business. It's a huge thing. And do you want your business to continue? Well,
right.
Yeah, and I think that number definitely is big and scary, and you get that by this one as well too, that it's projected to be 6 trillion annually by 2021. So it's really only getting bigger. And I think really there's a few different pieces that go into that, because it's not just the the incident, that what is directly lost from it, it's all the stuff that comes out of that.
Right.
If all your computers and your data is locked and you can't work, maybe all right, so you have to buy new servers and restore from backup. But if that takes you 3 days, a week, 2 weeks, that time when you're not being productive, that goes into that calculation of that lost income.
Not to mention the piece of the reputation damage, which is massive. This one's actually pretty terrifying too. Hackers attack every 39 seconds on average, 2,244 times a day, which means that it's like constant a barrage of attack, and just looking for weak points.
Yeah, I think the one or the analogy I like for this, and I've said it before, I'm repeat it again, is that it's not somebody like planning a casino heist to come after you. It's walking through the parking lot and checking to see if the doors are unlocked. And if your doors are unlocked, they're going to go through your car and see what they can find. And that's the mentality here. That's the strategy for this. So just, spread it out, see what's easy to get, and if you have something that's easy to get, then they'll go after that.
Correct. So this one actually really kind of got us we kind of pause for a second. So the average cost per record stolen is $150, and data breaches exposed 4.1 billion records in the first half of 2019. So that's an insane number.
Do that math. Yeah.
Yeah. That's over.
I think this one's also really
$500 billion.
relevant for people who have small to medium businesses, because I think a lot of people will be like, well, but does that count like Target having a breach, like some of the bigger numbers? But you can see, if it costs about $150 per record stolen, how many people work at your business, and how many, like if someone gets into your HR files, it's not just their social security number. They now also have a lot of information on these people.
Yeah, and I think more than that too, think about what constitutes a record. If you've got a contact list that you've put together of your contacts and people's home phone numbers and names and addresses, and you've got a contact list of 1,000 people, and that gets breached, that's 1,000 records right there.
Correct.
Yep. And that could be clients, former employees, all this stuff that you have on record. Yes, definitely.
So with that, I mean, so really, so now we have some good stats on why you should do this.
Well, let's talk. What's the answer to my question? Does my business need cybersecurity insurance?
Yeah,
cyber liability insurance?
It's a resounding yes. It's so and it really is truly a separate product from your normal business liability insurance, and you have to treat it separately, because it's underwritten very differently and the way that you acquire it is different. And I think even a lot of insurance brokers and vendors don't have a lot of experience with it because it's topics they don't really understand. And so it's different.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point too, is that generally when you think about insurance and you think about all the other insurances that are there is, a huge heaps of historical data about, what are the odds that you're going to have to pay out and how much you're going to have to pay. And I mean, even just look at, talk about something like life insurance. It's, they know at some point they're going to have to pay out, but the math works out because they know and can do all the work on them. This is such a new and evolving field that there isn't a lot of that historical data. So the process for getting that insurance can be more complicated than just putting in your name and social security number and getting this is what the
Right.
insurance rates are.
Yeah.
This is the insurance rate for your model of car in your neighborhood. Like
Yeah.
there isn't that level of
Right.
data built up yet. So the process can get complicated and involve a lot of information.
And it's evolving. I mean, I think George can speak to like how it used to be versus like it's always going to get more complicated, right?
Correct. And in the old days, it was like, I think the best example is even us renewing our cyber liability insurance for Valiant was in the past was kind of like check a few boxes and here's the price. And what we saw this year was that we got this like basically a NIST based form that was way more complicated, with a lot more sophisticated language that I think that was very different than anything I've seen from. I mean, I've seen it for certain other insurance underwriting, but it was way more complicated. It was just I was shocked. I mean,
it's the same form that we see for doing full security audits that normally we had not seen, and part of that is also I think our business is because we're tech focused like that. There's some more put on us, but that is what we're starting to see for clients too. It's the exact same information.
So I think that, I mean, part of it is just if you think you might need it, which you already saw the statistics, you're probably better off addressing it now and getting that process started and looking into it.
Right.
I mean, also any insurance is something that you need to have before something happens for it to actually pay out. So.
Right. It's usually the case. I mean, it's kind of hard after the fact.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the process of getting it. Now, I mean, obviously the stream is really just informational. We don't have any vendors on with us. We're not selling anything, but we do want to let people understand sort of what it looks like, and is it complicated, and is this something they can do on their own and things like that. So if you guys want to talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So, I mean, it depends. A lot of it depends on there's a couple factors in it. Like I was always like, as I said, Justin kind of illustrated that like our business is fairly complicated in terms of technology and the records and the data we kind of keep for our customers. So as a higher bar and the underwriting is more complicated. If you were to do e-commerce, if you're collecting PIIs, if you're a law firm, accounting firm, something that has like people's delicate data, you're gonna have a more complicated underwriting process. So I think a little bit is know your industry, like what your industry does. Kind of look at the bigger companies, AIG, Chubb, Lloyd's, just a couple players out there. Talk to your insurance broker. If they don't specialize in it, it's worth kind of reaching out to different insurance brokers to do that sort of thing. And also, like, you don't want to worry so much like some of the, you don't know what it's going to cost. So you have to really kind of play around with what they think your business is going to underwrite. The other one that's important to keep in mind is if you have PCI compliance in your business, that can affect your costs significantly. So also there's no historical data. So we don't have years and years of actuarial tables, as Justin said, like car accidents and car types. Like I know those 97 Honda Accord airbag theft is going to happen.
Well, and even if they could, technology moves at such a fast pace that it's not the same.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So
I think once you get to the point of getting paperwork and going through it, there are a few things that you should be prepared to information to have and
right,
to put in, and you'll definitely need to work with whoever is managing your IT. A lot of the stuff that comes in is business related or business related questions, but there is an IT component to it as well around the technical controls and technical things that you have,
right,
and the best advice I can give for that is be honest about it, because the follow-up questions to all of them will be great. Now we need the evidence that you've done that. And you're
correct,
better off saying,
Yes.
if it says, do you have XYZ, and you don't, it's okay not to have it. They're not necessarily looking for you to have all of the bells and whistles and everything. But if you indicate that you do, the follow-up will be great. Now, because you have that, then you have XYZ that this thing that you said you have comes with, and give us that information. And that's a
Mhm.
much bigger problem than
correct.
just say you don't have it.
Right.
Uh, just speaking from a past experience,
Yeah.
we found that especially working with the underwriter or working with different organizations. Let's say you have a client organization that you have a client that requires some level of security attestation. You really it's just that you really want to be honest, and you want to, because not only will you have to attest that you're doing those controls, you're doing those processes. In the case of insurance, if you say you have it and you don't, you could be denied your underwriting. So I could
Oh yeah.
increase your risk very high,
Hmm.
and that can
Yeah.
increase, and so you paying your premium for nothing.
Yeah.
Because you get denied instantaneously, like, hey, we have this. Oh yeah, we have a full SOC SIM in place, and you don't. Like,
And
you
if you don't
same as the
know what
underwriting. Yeah.
that means.
Yeah, if you know what that
Yeah.
means, you might want to, and really part of this too, I think, is we put together a pretty good language of risk worksheet, and there's a webinar that goes along with it that can kind of give you some defined edges of what your costs and
Yeah.
Mhm.
part of your kind of continuity and exposure, and it helps you know. I mean, you don't have to put everything on that form, but you want to be honest and
Mhm.
upfront,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's just going to help you in the end.
Yeah.
Um,
And the
so
corollary to that too is not just the technology and the technical controls, but also the policy that you have in
right,
place, the internal policy that
Yeah.
if you have a written policy for how you respond to a breach, let's say,
Mhm.
even if it isn't the perfect and end all be all and everything buttoned up, but you have something that's light years beyond having nothing, because it's
right,
Oh,
showing to both your clients that are asking for the audits, but also the insurance providers, that you have that mindset that you're prepared for it. It's
right,
again, the same. If if we go back to car insurance, if your car has a car alarm, it's gonna cost less for for that insurance than if it doesn't, when people are going through the parking lot and opening it up. Even though it's not necessarily going to stop somebody from stealing your car, it's better than nothing. It's something, and it's the
yes,
same
and they like
thing.
to know that you've prepared. And actually, one thing, I mean, training manager here, I know that a lot of these will ask if you have any sort of
Mm,
security best practices training. And sometimes even if you just look at, like, we have a webinar on it, we have, a video series on YouTube. Sometimes just enforcing the policy that your staff has to watch that
right,
is enough to
yeah.
get you that you can check that box, and it
correct,
might get you a discount. So like you can look at some of the stuff, and again, you don't need to have everything on the list. That would be really difficult. But if there's little things you can do, I was saying it's the same as having a fire extinguisher when you're filling out renter's insurance. It just
right,
gives you that tiny little discount, but
Yeah.
it's just a little thing that you can do, and
right.
you should probably have it anyway.
And also the car analogy, you're taking that 5 hour defensive driving course.
Yep.
Yes,
It,
yep,
it can
exactly.
absolutely impact. And also, I mean, remember, the best insurance is never used. If you think about it,
Yeah.
right, you don't want to use your car insurance because that means something bad happened. Usually speaking. So so the more you can do to eliminate the possibility, the better,
Mhm.
and that's why the rate can go down. So
Yeah.
and
I,
just yeah.
I
So
was just say I think the biggest thing is that, like, I've worked with people on filling out these forms, and it can get confusing. And I mean, I'm in training, I'm in tech, and I still have to pass that up to Justin sometimes.
right,
So it's really important when you do this, unless you are Justin, unless you have that sort of expertise, get someone
right,
who has expertise. and that's part of what we're here for. If you have a partner like Valiant Technology, it's really good to have that sort of expertise and have someone look at it, and they might be able to find things that you didn't realize that you do have, or they might be able to say, no, that's not what you think it is. Don't lie about it. You don't want to be responsible for making sure that that's enforced. And they can also, just like we said, tell you what little improvements are super easy to do, and you can check that box off. So it is really important. I think one thing we wanted to emphasize is that you should work with a reputable partner. You should have someone that you trust. A lot of those answers are in the breach response guide that we created. So that's a big thing. So let's look at our comment.
Yes, this is a good one. So
we got.
Besides,
okay, sorry, let's bring up Stefan.
Yes, it's Stefan. I'll read it. It's besides contacting your insurance carrier, is any benefit to contact any law enforcement authorities when you have a breach that shuts your business? Absolutely. I think that when you have a breach, depending on the severity and the state you live in, you may be mandated to inform law enforcement. I think it's best to kind of a plan for it, who you call, Secret Service, FBI, based on what happens. If it's money transactions, it could help with getting funds back or getting data back. Also, it just shows like it's a willingness to get things to be out in the open, because it's also just it really, we do want to try to hunt down these offenders and bring them some sort of justice if possible. So also it's the right thing to do.
Well, we have more on that in the data breach response checklist, because there is also like who you contact, or if you contact, is definitely going to depend on the situation. If someone fraudulently gets money, yes, obviously that's a big thing, and there might be some things where it depends on who you contact. So definitely check out that guide. You can also check out, we had a full live stream on it. So if you check out our YouTube page, you can see that one, the data breach response one.
Yeah, and it's definitely reiterate, it varies on what the incident is, because if it's an incident involving just money from your company and maybe not a lot, maybe it's not worth it to do. Maybe you don't need to, depending on the industry you're in. But if it's something that involves other people's information, and you may be required to report that so that it's out in the open, and this again varies by industry and location, and so it is important to treat that case by case.
Also, it might be part of your insurance requirement to be compensated to submit the form out there. You have to kind of keep that in mind. Once again, that's where if you think there is a breach, talk to the insurance carrier, work with them. Usually they assign they have law firms or advisors on staff that you can work with. Once again, work with your IT company. They can bring a specialist to, and you really want to. This is part of, once again, that pre-planning session. It's not. It's just the upfront work that could really make a difference. And so that you have some place to start from versus having nothing. And
I think it's worth mentioning too that working with an IT company, or even just an internal IT department if you're buttoned up, but a lot of the pieces that are requirements for that insurance get just taken care of as matter of fact. Being able to say that, all incidents are logged in tickets, and there's a change control system in place. Yes, we have positive proof of all systems being patched and updated. Those things can go a long way to help getting a good insurance policy.
I was going to say, and also one of the things we do is we have those like standards in place. So when our clients come to us, we can say, we already did this. We made sure you did that because that's our standard. That's our basis. And so you've already got that, which is great.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if you need a partner, let us know. That we love talking about cyber security and all that.
Cybersecurity insurance, all that stuff.
All that dry stuff. That's our jam. So okay,
cool. So beyond that, I mean, we're doing a really great webinar. We're doing a great webinar on September 17th with our partner Scout. They're a really great cybersecurity provider, MSSP. We work with them very closely. I think the presentation is fascinating. We're working on it now, and I think it's going to be really powerful. And you learn a lot about some of the anatomy of of just of a phishing attack. It's really cool stuff. I think it's worth checking out just from an educational perspective and just knowing that what's out there right now. And also we're doing our next session is going to be cybersecurity in 2020. Like what is it's kind of like an overview, just what we're seeing from the past year and kind of the new normal of COVID and all that kind of work from home and hybrid workplace. And so it's going to be a lot of some attacks, some what we're seeing out there. It's pretty chilling at times to see it. And, when we build these streams and you're like, man, this is just getting worse.
Wait, so why has much changed since 2019 or
a little bit, Marianne?
Okay. Exactly so we'll go over that.
So
cool.
Yeah. So I guess with that, please like and subscribe. If you think this stuff's useful, please share it with some of your friends and family, some business associates. Anything that, once again, if you have anything that you would like us to work with, please send it to us. We're always open to work with topics, and we're really excited to keep doing these. So, Marianne, you have anything else today?
No, that's it. Definitely. If you think that this is useful, or if you know someone who isn't quite sure about cybersecurity insurance, definitely send that to them. Let us know if you have questions about anything related to what we're doing or unrelated. We'll let you know. And then I guess just, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter if you want to get all the updates on these things that the content we're producing. And join us for the webinar because it's going to be a good one.
Super. Well, thank you both. I really appreciate it. Justin, Marianne, have a great day, and talk to you later. All right. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you later. Bye now.